Hello, and welcome back to Felony Spectator. I am your host, Heather. Today we're talking about the death of Alfredo Enrique Tello Jr., who was brutally murdered by Samuel Sheinbein and Aaron Needle. I had never heard of this case before, even though it went international. It went international because it was so frustrating that Sam left the country and it was almost impossible to extradite him. A subscriber suggested this case, and I thank you for that. Let's get right in. Alfredo Enrique Tello Jr. was known to his friends as Freddy, so we're going to call him Freddy as well. Freddy was outgoing, creative, supportive, and a really fun person to be around. Freddy was also an amazing artist, and teachers would later say that they expected that one day Freddy would open up his own art studio. He had just celebrated his 19th birthday in New York, went on a shopping spree courtesy of his mother, and was excited to start a new chapter in his life. He had also been recently hired at the Congressional Aquarium in Rockville, Maryland, and had worked for about 3 weeks, which was really exciting for him. Working here suited his personality because it was a laid-back, fun type of job, and having employment meant that he could now afford his new apartment. He had recently moved into his own place and had bought himself a new car. Well, new to him, used car. Coworkers at the aquarium all thought he was outgoing and free-spirited. He was a lot of fun and loved to have fun. He also loved to party. He recently had a misdemeanor drug charge due to being stopped a few weeks before his death for an unsafe lane change. When the officer pulled him over, they found plants and paraphernalia for those plants, unfortunately, which led to the charge. Freddy didn't let the charge bring him down and continued to work and hang out with his friends. Samuel Sheinbein, a friend of Freddy's, was born July 25th, 1980. He lived in Aspen Hill, Maryland, which is a high-end neighborhood for the wealthy. Saul, his father, was a patent lawyer in Maryland who has since been disbarred. Saul was born in a British-controlled Palestine and Israel, but had emigrated with his family at the age of 6, so just a young child. He only went back a few times, but kept his Israeli citizenship, and this is important for the story. Sam was a 17-year-old student at JFK High School in Montgomery County, Maryland. He was said to be very smart, and teachers here all thought he had a good head on his shoulders. One of Sam's longtime friends was Aaron Benjamin Needle. They had met at Charles E. Smith Jewish Day School in Rockville, but both boys had been expelled after getting into a lot of trouble. Both of them had run-ins with police, and Sam specifically had been arrested for burglary and theft. Natalie, Sam's older sister, would later remember that when they were younger, much younger, closer to 4 or 5, Sam was often excluded. Other parents thought there was something not quite right with Sam socially, and he didn't really fit in with the other kids. When Sam was a little older, it said he suffered from anorexia and OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Natalie went on to say that after the murder, friends informed her that they had seen signs of schizophrenic behavior. It's not known if his family felt the same way about Sam or if these were just rumors that occurred afterwards. A close friend of Sam's brother reported that he thought Sam's troubles were mainly in middle school, and most people thought he had straightened himself out in high school. Family was watching the NBA finals. Sam spent his time studying for his finals. This friend had assumed that Sam moving schools had really helped him. He seemed as though he really wanted to succeed. Sam's friend Aaron ended up being sent to military school, and he also spent time at a center for emotionally disturbed youth. Aaron had regularly smoked plants, drank alcohol, and his father thought he was just a danger to himself, so he had him put into this center. Sam regularly smoked plants, drank alcohol, and his father thought he was a danger to himself, so he had put in a request for an emergency evaluation for Aaron when he was only 15. And this evaluation is what led to him spending time at Potomac Ridge Psychiatric Hospital. It was alleged that Aaron had threatened to end his life and had run away from the hospital. It's also assumed that Aaron eventually started to mature as he got older. He got his GED and would enroll in Montgomery College with the hopes of one day being a U.S. Marine. I have read that Aaron lived under his mother's thumb. She controlled a lot of his life, was overprotective and overbearing. When Aaron enrolled in college, his mom even picked out all of his college classes because she thought she knew what was best for Aaron. This meant that Aaron didn't have a lot of privacy. He also didn't have a lot of time away from his parents because they both worked from home running a computer company. It's assumed that due to his mother being overbearing, he didn't have a lot of close friends. Sam was one of them, but Sam was still in high school. It said that Sam was also having some issues of his own in high school with jealousy. A girl he had a crush on started to date someone else. Sam and this girl were only friends, but Sam wanted something more. Now that would be disappointing for a lot of teens, but for Sam, it ignited intense anger and jealousy. It's rumored that Sam had asked an acquaintance at school if they would kill his crush's new boyfriend if he'd give them $5,000. Alternatively, they could be paid $1,000 to lure the boyfriend into a vehicle with altered locks so this boyfriend couldn't escape. The classmate naturally declined and thought it was just a joke. It would later be revealed that this wasn't the first time Sam would ask classmates inappropriate questions. In another conversation, he had asked, "Do you want to RAPE a girl?" Then claimed he had a girl locked away that this person could RAPE. Now, there was no girl, but it was disturbing that Sam was asking these questions to classmates. Meanwhile, Aaron and Freddy would start to become closer friends. Some would say this was more of a loose friendship, but it worked out because Freddy got to drive Aaron's nice car, and Aaron thought that Freddy could get him plants or other party favors. So I guess they were sort of using each other in a way. Another good friend of Freddy's was a girl named Hannah Choi. Hannah had known Freddy for years. He was one of those people who could just make her laugh. He was a lot of fun to be around, and they just got along really well. On September 16th, 1997, Hannah paged Freddy to see what he was up to. Freddy had just finished up at work at the fish store, but he called her back right away. Freddy was excited and told her that he talked to his friend Aaron, and they're all going to go to his friend Sam's house because his parents were out of town. Apparently, they all wanted to go to Sam's to drink or party. Before going to Sam's, he and Aaron were going to eat at Taco Bell first. He mentioned that she could come and meet up with them at the Taco Bell with some of her friends, and then they'd all go to Sam's together. Adam Moore, a coworker at Congressional Aquarium, remembers that Freddy was in a really good mood during work and had mentioned he had plans that night. Freddy had also been making several calls to people about these plans. Another coworker would later testify that around 5:30, Aaron and Sam had pulled up in Sam's new 1997 green Firebird and waited outside for Freddy's shift to be over. At 6 p.m., Freddy would get into his light blue Chevy Impala while the green Firebird followed. Adam Moore, the coworker, had left at the same time and was also driving behind them. Freddy and the green Firebird eventually turned, heading east onto Route 28, which was also the direction of Sam's neighborhood. Not long after, Hannah and a friend, who had also spoken to Freddy, went to meet Freddy at Taco Bell in the Plaza del Mercado in Wheaton, but strangely, the boys never showed up. A block away from Sam's home sat an unoccupied residence owned by a fellow classmate's parents, Kevin Culner Jr. It said that Kevin had used this home secretly to host a few small parties in the summer, but the house was up for sale and it was all cleaned up for showings. Other reports do say the house was already sold. Sam and Kevin were acquaintances, not good friends, but Sam would ask Kevin for a favor. On September 18th, he explained that he was with a girl and wanted to take her inside the home for some privacy. Now, even though they weren't good friends, Kevin understood the need for privacy and girls and informed Sam that there was a key hidden above the back patio sliding door, and he could go ahead and go in, but don't make a mess. The following morning, on September 19th, 1997, 2 real estate agents came to the unoccupied home to prepare the home for a showing. Again, there are conflicting reports here, one saying that the house was already sold, but a real estate agent had come to check on it. When that real estate agent came, they had noticed that the front door had been tampered with. When they entered, they could detect a strong smell that led them to the garage. The realtor would go into the garage and come across a body wrapped in black garbage bags with another bag over the presumed head. I should mention that this body was so badly charred that the realtor actually didn't know what it was. They thought it might be a deer carcass. The realtor immediately called Montgomery County Police Department, and officers came to check on the situation and deemed the home a crime scene. Also in the garage, there was a garden cart with a blue tarp, a Makita electric circular saw on top, several propane canisters on the ground, rubber gloves, some duct tape, and a Home Depot receipt showing these items were purchased at 2:27 p.m. 2 days previously. In the backyard was a large, freshly dug hole where it's thought that the killers had planned to bury the torso, but either abandon that idea or were going to come back later and finish up. Again, this body was so badly charred at the time, it was impossible to know who it was. Investigators interviewed neighbors who reported that they saw people at the home. One neighbor specifically said that they saw teenagers who were struggling to push a garden cart covered with a tarp towards the house. Police also spoke with the owners of the home, and they learned that their son Kevin had allowed his high school friend Sam Sheinbein to use the home the night before. With the use of police canines, they were also able to find a small blood trail that went from the home all the way to the back of Sam Sheinbein's garage. The police would speak with Sam's parents, Saul and Victoria Sheinbein, and they informed police that Sam didn't come home from school. There are more conflicting reports here again, one saying that nobody knew where the boys were and they remained missing for a few days, but other reports say that Sam had called home and informed his parents that he was spending the weekend in Ocean City with his friend Aaron. There is discussion that his parents already knew that the boys were in New York when the police came to speak with them, and they weren't actually missing. Either way, the boys had fled to New York. Sam's parents did allow police to look in their home, specifically in the garage where they found an empty Makita saw box, rubber gloves, plastic bags, a box of fire logs, and matches. On the floor was a pile of ashes, presumably where something large was burned. Missing was the family's garden cart. It would later be learned that his parents mentioned that there was a horrible smell coming from the garage a few days prior, but Sam had told them that a moped battery had blown up and caught fire, and I guess they believed him and left it alone. It was very evident that Sam was their suspect, and police needed to track him down. Now, at some point, the boys had called home from New York saying that they had gotten themselves in a bit of trouble and they needed help. Aaron's parents had given him money for an Amtrak ticket to Union Station so he could come home and deal with this so-called trouble. It's been reported that Sam's parents drove to Manhattan, picked him up, and took him to JFK Airport with his passport and a ticket to Israel. Other reports say that Sam did this on his own. Either way, they knew at this point that Sam was in some sort of trouble and he needed to escape. His parents would soon follow him to Israel not long after. On September 22, 1997, Freddy was reported missing by his mother. Dental records would soon confirm the torso found in the home was Freddy's. The police learned that Freddy had told Hannah that he wanted to meet up at the Taco Bell in Silver Springs with Aaron and Sam, but he never showed up. As far as Hannah knew, the party that Freddy told her about didn't happen either. Aaron Needle would be arrested on September 23, 1997, in the parking lot of his lawyers. Sam would not be arrested because he was still in Israel. During the investigation, Hannah would be a good source of information to paint a picture of Aaron and Sam for the police. She had recently been hanging out with Freddy and Aaron over the past month and thought that Aaron was a bit weird. Back on September 9th, 1997, Hannah and her friend were bored, driving around town, and decided to go down to a friend's house near Mount Lebanon Cemetery. The house had a really long driveway, and the driveway was actually where people hung out, not the actual house. So Hannah and her friend are there, and a gold-colored Honda would pull up. Inside, they'd see Freddy, which was exciting because he was always so much fun. But Freddy was with someone else they didn't know. His name was Aaron Needle. Hannah remembered thinking that they seemed like an odd pair. Freddy was more of like a hip-hop style guy and wore diamond earrings and gold chains, whereas Aaron was preppy, wore wire-rimmed glasses, khakis, and white t-shirts. The girls decided to hang out with the boys that night, so the four of them decided to leave and drive around for something to do. Hannah's friend called shotgun, so she was in the back seat with Aaron. Hannah would later recall that Aaron wouldn't stop talking. He had no filter and basically told her his entire life, his past arrest history, his family, even telling her that he was still a virgin. Hannah would learn that she and Aaron were in the same broadcasting class together in college. She didn't recognize him, but there had only been 2 classes so far. Aaron, however, would rattle off how he recognized her, what she wore the first day of school, who she was sitting near, the fact that she had dyed her hair darker since their last class, and then he flat out told her that he thought she was hot. This made her uncomfortable, but she joked with him and kept things light because she didn't want things to be awkward. Everyone was in good spirits that night, joking around. At one point, Aaron joked, saying that Freddy was his chauffeur, and the 2 boys started to insult each other back and forth. It seemed friendly at first, but the insults turned into racial slurs, which the girls found odd, and wondered if these guys were even really friends. Hannah also noticed that Aaron had kept calling someone named Sam, at least a dozen times while they were together driving around. Each time, he would make a big announcement right before dialing, saying things like, "Hold on, I have to call Sam Sheinbein," or "I'm just going to call Sam Sheinbein," using Sam's full name, and kind of making a big deal about it. Sam was apparently at home doing homework that night and refused to meet up with the group, but that didn't stop Aaron from calling him nonstop. The following night, Hannah was with her friend again, talking about having a laid-back night, possibly watching some 90210. Hannah had skipped school to avoid seeing Aaron, who had annoyed her the night before, but Freddy called her and said that Aaron and him wanted to hang out again. So again, they drive around looking for cigarettes, and Hannah once again was annoyed by Aaron's constant talking. And again this night, Aaron and Freddy were telling jokes which turned into insults, which then escalated to Aaron using racial slurs. This time, Freddy didn't play along, and instead he reached around from the driver's seat and punched Aaron in the face, knocking his glasses off. Freddy then pulled the car over, opened the back passenger door, and tried to punch Aaron again. Aaron didn't punch back. Instead, he grabbed Freddy's fist and said, "What are you doing? You're my boy. It's just jokes." Hannah didn't think Aaron was hurt by Freddy's punches, but he was briefly embarrassed after the incident. Hannah remembered that he called up Sam, laughing about some inside joke, then continued the evening like nothing happened. A week later, the 4 would see each other again, and Hannah would inform Aaron that she had a boyfriend, and she had been dating her boyfriend for almost 4 years. Which I'm not sure is true or something that she just said because Aaron was annoying. Aaron was confused and questioned Freddy about it, asking why he never told him. Freddy simply said he forgot or he didn't know. To Freddy, it probably wasn't a big deal because he thought they were just friends. And this is when things go sideways. It's presumed by some that Aaron is now angry at Freddy because Freddy didn't tell him that Hannah had a long-term boyfriend. Now, Aaron wasn't the only angry one. Remember, Sam was also mad because his high school crush had a new boyfriend. So I guess at this point, Sam and Aaron came up with a deal or a pact that Sam would help Aaron kill Freddy, who embarrassed him in front of Hannah. Freddy would help Sam kill the boyfriend of the girl he had a crush on. I have also read that Sam asked Aaron to help him kill this high school boy, and Aaron suggested that Freddy be a practice victim that they kill first. Either way, both theories are inexcusable and completely senseless. Forensics would later reveal that Sam and Aaron had loaded Freddy's remains into the back of Aaron's Honda. Then they drove to the vacant home. Tire tracks would reveal that they drove the car right into the garage and unloaded Freddy's burnt remains. The 2 would drive back to Sam's house and loaded other items into the garden cart, which were the tools used to dismember Freddy. Then they take the garden cart and walk down a path towards the vacant home. While walking, they left a small trail of blood that was presumably dripping off of the tools. Freddy's cause of death was a combination of blunt force trauma, deep neck wounds, deep chest wounds, and strangulation. It's thought that Sam and Aaron had incapacitated Freddy somehow, possibly with a stun gun. Then they choked and stabbed Freddy before beating him with a sawed-off shotgun. Where the incident originally occurred is still unknown. The dismemberment and burning happened in Sam's garage. Freddy was then possibly kept in Sam's garage for 2 nights. The first night stuffed into a storage closet. The following day, the pair would go back to Sam's house and remove Freddy's legs just above his knees and remove his arms just above the elbows. His limbs have never been found and presumably put into the neighbor's trash bins. The pair would then set Freddy's remaining torso on fire with prefab fire logs and continued to torch the fire with propane until Freddy was completely unidentifiable. The realtor had described what they saw as a charred lump. Other evidence found in Sam's home was a note on a piece of paper of things Sam needed to pull off this plan. It read, Zap, pepper, metal restraints, rain suits, X-Acto hobby knife, plastic bags, jiu-jitsu knife, with a check mark next to it quoting recommended by Consumer Reports, size 14 shoes, and, quote, if they don't fit, they must acquit, referencing Johnny Cochran in the O.J. Simpson trial. Prosecution would later describe this note as a recipe for murder. They also saw that on September 15th, the two had bought goggles from Toys R Us. And remember the receipt found in the garage? This was the purchase of the metal trash can, the Nikita electric saw, propane cylinders, and a torch kit. All items a person may need if they were going to burn something big. During the investigation, Robert, Sam's brother, would tell investigators that Sam told him that the three of them went to 7-Eleven in Wheaton, where Aaron ran inside to grab something and Sam and Freddy stayed in the car. When Aaron returned, Freddy allegedly tried to rob Aaron, so Sam defended Aaron by strangling Freddy. While Sam was strangling Freddy, Aaron would also be punching Freddy. So basically, there was three grown men having a massive fist fight inside a car outside 7-Eleven. Investigators didn't really believe this because they thought there would have been witnesses. The 7-Eleven in question was very busy and located at a very busy intersection. There was no indication that a fight happened the way Robert described, or witnesses. At this point, it was pretty clear who killed Freddy regardless of the reason. Aaron was not considered bail for his bail hearing because the court thought it was safer for Aaron to be in custody. Without having Sam in custody, they feared that he might secretly return from Israel and try and harm Aaron in some way. Originally, it was agreed through Sheinbein's attorney that Sam would voluntarily return to the U.S. A flight was arranged, and the FBI set themselves up in the airport to arrest Sam as he departed the plane. When it was time for Sam to board his non-stop flight from Tel Aviv to JFK Airport, he failed to show up. The FBI then issued a new warrant for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution and faxed Israeli authorities a copy. It was later learned that the night before the flight, while still in Israel, Robert, Sam's brother, hired a prostitute for Sam and bought Sam his first bottle of wine so they could enjoy one last night of freedom before Sam had to go back to the United States. It's then assumed that Sam tried to unalive himself by drinking the wine and ingesting several sleeping pills. The family's attorney claims that Robert found him unconscious when he woke up. A 2-page letter to his family was also found in the hotel room they were staying in, which is believed to be more of a unalive note. I wasn't able to find the letter, but it said that Sam had mentioned he had gone, quote, beyond the necessary lengths to protect himself, and quote, it's all just a bad coincidence that things turned out as bad as they did, end quote. Now, Sam survived whatever he did at the hotel and would be found by FBI agents in Tel Aviv in Beilinson Hospital. He was released from the hospital and then placed in a psychiatric hospital still in Tel Aviv. Back in the US, Sam was facing first-degree murder charges, and the plan was that he had to be tried as an adult despite being 17 years old. Sam's attorneys were trying to fight extradition, saying that he was claiming Israeli citizenship by being the son of an Israeli national. Remember, his father Saul was born in Palestine and emigrated at the age of 6. Even though his father spent the majority of his life in the US and Sam was born in America and also a US citizen, that didn't seem to matter. The Israeli laws allowed him to stay in Israel. Sam's family lawyers decided to hire a group of investigators to dig into Freddy with the intention of spinning a new story. With the help of the Washington Post, on October 2nd, an article was released stating that Freddy was involved in coke and plant trafficking and owned a shot-off shotgun. The Sheinbeins were really trying to make Freddy seem like a horrible person, a dangerous person that Sam and Aaron were just trying to defend themselves against. These claims are completely false, but it was still out there in hopes to assist Sam in a self-defense case. These claims don't explain why Sam and Aaron needed to dismember and burn and conceal evidence if it was simply self-defense. Anyway, the U.S. Department of Justice submitted an extradition request again, and the U.S. Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, also pressed for maximum cooperation to get Sam back into the U.S. Israeli Attorney General opened the proceedings against Sam, but Sam and his family fought it every step of the way and were not being cooperative whatsoever. Then in February of 1998, Judge Moshe Ravid offered a compromise that Sam could voluntarily go back to the U.S. for a trial and then return to Israel for his prison sentence. Sam was entertaining this idea, but U.S. prosecutors didn't and rejected the proposal. They wanted Sam tried and punished in the same country he did the crime. Then, in September of 1998, Judge Ravid finally ruled that Sam would be extradited because he used a U.S. passport to enter Israel, never lived in Israel, and had no meaningful connections to Israel. He thought Sam wasn't a citizen deserving protection under the Israeli law. And this would have been great, but the district court's decision was appealed to the Israeli Supreme Court. Then in February of 1999, they blocked Sam's extradition. This was because of an old law that banned the extradition of Israeli citizens. He was the son of an Israeli-born citizen. As you can imagine, this did not go over well with Freddy's family or most of America. Justice needed to be served, and Sam was being a coward. It was frustrating that Israel was protecting someone who was not even a resident and had no ties to Israel. Not only that, this law could potentially turn Israel into a sanctuary for criminals. What would stop other Israelis from committing crimes and escaping back to Israel with no consequences? This brought out a lot of ugly racism as well, as you can imagine. This case was also cited during Adnan Syed's bond hearing, in that the prosecution thought Adnan might also flee and they'd have another Sheinbein situation on their hands. A precedent was being set, and that's scary. While this was all happening, someone broke into Sam's parents' home and spray painted a memorial on the garage floor where Freddy's ashes once laid. Another tribute was also spray painted on the side of a gas station on East-West Highway in Hyattsville. Robert, Sam's brother, reported the vandalism, but police never made any arrests. I don't think they really cared all that much. They wanted justice just like everybody else, and Sam and Aaron needed to pay. Aaron Needle's trial never ended up taking place due to him unaliving himself in April of 1998, just 2 days before jury selection. Aaron's defense team insists that Aaron wasn't physically involved in Freddy's murder. Instead, he was more of a bystander. Aaron didn't have a lot of friends, and they believed that Aaron truly thought of Freddy as a friend. Aaron had also offered to testify against Sam if Sam was brought back to the U.S. One of Aaron's former cellmates would say Aaron kept out of trouble. He didn't talk much to others, but had shared information about the crime. Allegedly, the pair did in fact use a stun gun to immobilize Freddy before Sam tied a rope around Freddy's neck. The two beat Freddy to death with a sawed-off shotgun, killing him. The inmate signed a document stating these facts, which was notarized. The inmate was also listed as a potential witness for Aaron's trial as well. According to the inmate, the pair were mad at Freddy for allegedly selling them plant laced with PCP. The plan was to bury Freddy in the yard of the unoccupied home, but that plan was cut short when the realtor found the body. It was also reported that when the two went to New York after the murder, they signed a confession and notarized it on September 20th, the day after the body was discovered. Stephen J. Corvey Sr., a pharmacist and notary public who was subpoenaed to testify, said the two walked into his store and requested the document be notarized. The document was folded over, showing only the signature section. One of the boys demanded that he not read the note as it was private and to just notarize it for them. The Washington Post has published the note. Some excerpts, quote, "I, Aaron Needle, ellipses, then there are 6 words crossed out before continuing. More ellipses, to the Breeze Hill incident in my golden 1989 Honda Accord, ellipses. Please find car and return it to Rosalind Needle," end quote. The note continues with 4 more words crossed out, followed by ellipses, and placed in the garage of the house number, Breeze Hill Lane, Silver Spring, Maryland. The last line of the note read, "We had to get rid of it," presumably referencing Freddy's body. Aaron's former cellmate apparently had a copy of this letter as well. I'm not sure how. Back to Sam. Sam didn't end up getting extradited. Instead, he went to court for murder in the Israeli justice system. He would be seen on TV relatively carefree, smiling as his lawyers spoke for him. Not someone who did something horrendous with remorse or someone who was scared or nervous. He just didn't really seem to care. In August of 1999, Sam accepted a plea bargain, which had him plead guilty for the murder. He went before a judge, there was no jury, and the public didn't get to know a full account of what happened or what was said at his hearing. Sam was sentenced to 24 years in prison on October 25, 1999, with eligibility for prison furloughs of 24 to 96 hours after serving 4 years of his sentence, and eligible for parole in 2013 when he turned 33. A furlough is a temporary leave. U.S. citizens were outraged. Israelis were also outraged. Sam had essentially manipulated the extradition laws and forced himself into the Israeli courts. This costs them money and ties up their courts for something that didn't even happen in their country. Nobody approved of this sentence either. 24 years is a long sentence, but 30 years is equivalent to a life sentence in Israel. So at a minimum, that's what he should have gotten. Sam's mother was the only one who was very sad about his sentence and said it was unfair. She was reported telling the Associated Press, quote, "It couldn't have happened to a better kid." The United States would issue an Interpol warrant that if Sam ever entered the United States, he would immediately be prosecuted. He would also face extradition if he traveled to any Interpol countries, regardless of his time served in Israel. Remember, Sam's parents had followed him to Israel after he fled there? They ended up staying. Saul, who was a patent lawyer for the U.S. government, got a job representing U.S. companies in Israel. He was also charged with obstructing police when he helped Sam flee the United States. Saul, like Sam, won't be extradited, but the charges will wait for him upon arrival back to the United States. Sam managed to mostly stay out of trouble while in prison and earned his furloughs. Then in early 2014, he took a furlough to the city of Ramla, where he tried to steal a gun from a man he met online. He apparently tried to arrange to buy the gun, but instead tried to steal it. Other reports say he tried to buy a gun with a fake ID. The man involved in the transaction caught Sam and held him while the police showed up. Sam was sent back to jail, confined to his cell over the weekend, and an indictment was filed over the incident. Sam was then to be transferred to another facility. Then in February 23, 2014, Sam called his attorney thanking her for everything she had done, telling her goodbye and that she'd hear from him soon. This call sounded very strange, so she thought he was about to unalive himself and called the prison and district attorney's office asking them to do something. About a half hour later, while Sam was being transferred to a different wing, surveillance video would show that he fled the guards and ran upstairs to the staff level where he locked himself in a bathroom. From the bathroom, he pulled out a handgun and shot 3 guards through the bathroom door who were trying to break in. Sam would barricade himself inside the bathroom until the Metzada unit was brought in, which is a tactical team used for riots, hostage situations, and prison disturbances. They were going to try and negotiate, but Sam decided to shoot at them instead, and a shootout ensued in which Sam was seriously injured. A total of 5 guards were injured, 1 critically. Medical staff tried to resuscitate Sam, but failed, and he died soon afterwards. In his cell, they discover a hidden cache where a gun would have been hidden. He also had a bucket with a false bottom that held plastic restraints and a set of keys that were for other cells and wings in the prison. It has been said that Sam's siblings have since changed their last names to avoid connections with the murder. His sister Natalie apparently stayed in the United States, but his brother Robert eventually moved to Israel, where where he got married and has children. My thoughts? What Sam and Aaron did was absolutely horrific. After reading more about Aaron, it seems he was a different type of guy. Socially awkward, really odd. People really couldn't figure him out. Most people thought he seemed harmless. It's too bad he didn't speak out or apologize to Freddy's family before he decided to hang himself. It would have been nice if he made amends or at least tried to. Maybe I'm being naive, but if he was this nice guy that people say he was, an apology seems logical. He still knew right from wrong. I mean, he obviously felt some sort of emotion towards the situation because he ended his own life. Sam, on the other hand, he seems like a sociopath. I feel like he was the ringleader of the two men. Sam's parents, well, I don't know much about them, seem like they don't have much regard for other people either. I wonder why his parents thought he'd be safer in Israel. Or maybe they thought he'd get away with it, when in reality, he probably would have been safer in the United States. Prisons in Israel are said to be appalling and nowhere near as humane as ones in the Western world. If you're curious, Google it. They are very, very corrupt. I'm sure that Saul had to pay lots of money to continue to protect his son in prison. Sam might have also gotten himself into something bigger because he only had 1 more year left until being eligible for parole. But instead, he felt the need to get a weapon and start a shootout. Something must have happened to him to just throw his chance away at getting out. In the end, maybe he got what he deserved. What do you think? Did karma take care of these boys? I'm also curious if anyone has heard anything different. There seems to be a lot of conflicting information about this case. I guess the bones of the story are all the same, but anyway, let me know what you think. That's all for today. Thanks again for joining me here at Felony Spectator, and we will see you again soon.